This episode is provided by Thomas Allgaier and Frennis, based on the most relevant LinkedIn posts about MarTech from calendar weeks 24 and 25. Frennis is a B2B market research company that supports enterprise marketing teams in unlocking the full potential of their customer data with the help of AI. You can find more info in the description.
So what if the million-dollar customer data platform that you just spent 2 painful years implementing was actually functionally obsolete? Like the very moment you signed the contract.
Oof. Yeah, that's a rough thought.
Right. But welcome to this deep dive. Today, we're really looking at this tectonic shift in the industry. Our mission here is to unpack the biggest MarTech trends we saw on LinkedIn over calendar weeks 24 and 25.
Exactly.
And if you are a B2B marketing professional, this isn't about like incremental updates to your email software. We are talking about fundamental architectural shifts.
Yeah, the big stuff.
The stuff that dictates whether your tech stack will even survive the next 3 years. So we're going to keep this sharp, smart, and zeroed in on what actually changes your daily operations. No fluff.
Yeah, it's a brutal reality check, but honestly, a really necessary one. And to kick things off, we really have to look at the absolute shockwave of the week. I'm talking about Databricks Data and AI Summit DASAS 2026.
Oh, yeah. That was massive.
Right. Just to set the stage for how big this was, Katie Ewan and the Databricks team stood up in front of this audience of like 30,000 attendees and unveiled this product called CustomerLake. And they didn't just announce a feature, they explicitly positioned CustomerLake as an agentic CDP that is built natively inside the Lakehouse environment.
Yeah, and that announcement completely shifts the ground under the entire vendor ecosystem.
Right.
But to really grasp, why this matters, we need to look at the historical friction in marketing technology.
Right.
Seeger Derricks actually posted this brilliant analysis from the summit that really cut to the core of this. He pointed out a hard truth that, honestly, most vendors won't admit.
Which is? That
most of the quote-unquote CDP problems organizations have faced over the last decade, they were never actually CDP problems to begin with.
Wait, so what were they then? Because, from a marketer's perspective, if the CDP isn't outputting the right segments, the software just looks broken.
Well, they were fundamentally data architecture problems, just disguised as marketing problems.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, think about the classic enterprise setup. You have this fragmented data ingestion coming from, like, a dozen different sources. You have completely undefined identity resolution logic.
Right, so the CRM defines a customer one way.
Exactly, and your website analytics defines it completely differently.
Yeah.
And brands just kept throwing budget at new shiny CDPs, hoping the software layer would magically act as a Band-Aid over, a broken foundation.
Broken architectural foundation.
Yeah, right. So by building CustomerLake directly into the Lakehouse, Databricks is making this massive statement. They're basically admitting that the data infrastructure layer is officially absorbing MarTech. The Lakehouse is the CDP now, because that's where the data actually lives.
Yeah, but let me bring in another angle here, because not everyone sees this as, like, the immediate death of the standalone CDP.
Yeah.
David Chan had a really interesting perspective on this. He argues that this doesn't mean the CDP is dead as a concept. Rather, it proves the CDP is a capability so foundational and so critical to the enterprise that embedding it directly into the core data platform is actually a sign of its ultimate importance.
Yeah. It's graduating.
Exactly. It's graduating. It's no longer just some niche marketing tool used by campaign managers. It's an enterprise-wide necessity sitting at the core data layer.
I see that.
But, okay, let's unpack the mechanics of this for a second, because I want to push back on this trend.
Okay, go for it.
Let's use a restaurant kitchen analogy instead of the usual library metaphors we hear in tech all the time.
I like a food analogy.
Right. So if the data warehouse or the lakehouse is the massive walk-in freezer where you securely store all your premium ingredients, that's great.
Yeah.
But having a stocked freezer doesn't help you during a Friday dinner rush if you don't have an expediter at the front of the kitchen.
The person calling out the tickets.
Exactly. The one calling the tickets, timing the sauces, making sure the steak hits the table hot. Can a data warehouse, which is fundamentally built for like massive batch storage and heavy processing, really replace the marketing platforms that act as that real-time expediter?
So that kitchen analogy actually perfectly illustrates the physical limitations of what Databricks is trying to do here. And it aligns really closely with David Raab's contrary view on the whole CustomerLake announcement.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Reb points out that there is a massive amount of real-time, highly contextual data that lives entirely outside the data warehouse.
Like what, though? What isn't making it into the warehouse?
Well, high-velocity temporary signals. Think about a user's current session behavior on your website, like right this second, or live inventory levels that are changing by the minute. Or even real-time weather data affecting a logistics buyer's immediate needs. Routing all of that temporary high-velocity data through a central data lake just to process it and push it back out.
That would introduce incredible latency.
Exactly. It's horribly inefficient.
So the walk-in freezer can't also be the expediter window because it's simply too slow to react to what's happening right in front of the customer.
That is the structural bottleneck right there.
Right.
Which means the true center of gravity in MarTech isn't just where you store the historical data, it's orchestration.
Orchestration?
The real power lies in the ability to take the deep historical knowledge from the warehouse, like account history, contract values, and instantly combine it with the real-time context of the moment to make a split-second engagement decision.
Wow. And if orchestration and real-time execution are the actual battlegrounds, that completely explains the absolute Wild West of ecosystem reactions we saw in calendar week 25. Like right after Databricks made their move.
Oh, the market reacted instant.
It really did. We saw this massive industry scoop highlighted by Martin Keane and Matthew Niederberger.
The high-touch news.
Yes. The composable CDP vendor Hightouch reportedly made a $1.2 billion bid for LiverRamp's identity assets.
Which is just staggering. Let's contextualize that for a second. You have a $1 billion bid coming from a company that essentially built its entire business model as the reverse ETL pipeline.
Right.
And for anyone listening who isn't living in the data trenches every day, reverse ETL is essentially the plumbing that takes data out of the warehouse and pushes it into your operational tools, like your email marketing platform or your CRM.
Right. And Keane framed this acquisition attempt so brilliantly. He didn't just call it a strategic expansion. He literally called it an act of existential panic by the composable CDP market.
Existential panic. Wow.
Yeah. And if we follow the logic, it makes perfect sense. If Databricks successfully turns the data lake itself into the CDP, the value proposition of a standalone tool whose only job is to pipe data out of that lake, it just starts to evaporate.
Because Databricks will just build the pipes natively.
Exactly. So Hightouch is scrambling to grab an identity graph, something that resolves who these random digital footprints actually belong to across the open web just to build a defensive moat and stay relevant.
It's totally a fight for survival by moving in the value chain. And honestly, it perfectly illustrates Christopher Marriott's observation on this whole saga.
What did he say?
Marriott pointed out that the new battleground for ESPs and engagement platforms is no longer just data storage. The battleground is execution architecture.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, the strategic question you need to be asking as a marketing leader isn't who owns the customer profile anymore. The real question is who can act on customer intelligence with minimal friction.
And Databricks clearly knows they have an execution gap on that front. They know they're the walk-in freezer and they need help at the expediter window.
Right.
That's why they didn't launch CustomerLake in a vacuum. They brought a massive army of launch partners to fill in the gaps.
Which partnerships really stood out to you?
Two really caught my eye. First, Marcy Bontadelli noted how Databricks partnered with Axiom for native real ID resolution. And the key word there is native. You can resolve identities right where the data lives in the lakehouse without having to expose or move PII, personal identifiable information. They use federated queries so the data never actually leaves the secure environment.
That's huge for compliance.
Absolutely. And second, Dave Lambert pointed out their partnership with Iterable. So once Axiom resolves the identity natively, Iterable acts as the execution engine to take that newly resolved data and immediately turn it into activation across like email, SMS, and in-app channels.
Okay, so they're trying to offer the entire end-to-end chain through this cohesive ecosystem. And that actually brings us to a really vital piece of advice for you, the listener, courtesy of Bindias. Raj, as you look at your own tech roadmap for the next few years, you have to stop evaluating CDPs in isolation. You can't just run an RFP for a CDP anymore. You have to start treating the entire flow from data storage in the warehouse, to identity resolution, to AI decisioning, all the way to channel activation as one single unified architectural decision.
Yeah.
The era of buying disjointed best-of-breed tools and just, praying they integrate cleanly, that's over.
Yeah, totally over. And if the plumbing is finally getting sorted out at the architectural level, that leads us to the question of who or what is actually going to drive the campaigns.
Here we go.
Which brings us to the buzziest topic in B2B right now. Agentic marketing. We're supposedly moving from passive data to active AI agents.
We are, but it's happening really unevenly. Arjun Pillai highlighted this really fascinating asymmetry in how this AI revolution is playing out in the B2B space.
Okay, how so?
Well, if you look at sales technology, venture capital has absolutely flooded into AI. We have outbound AI SDRs, these fully automated prospecting agents that can research an account, draft an email, and handle replies without a human ever touching it.
Yeah, we see those everywhere now.
But if you look at B2B marketing, it has seen almost zero true agentic innovation. It's this massive, wide-open category just waiting for someone to build it.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting. And I have to admit, I'm a little confused by Pillai's claim here. We have marketing teams right now using generative AI to write nurture sequences, crank out blog posts, generate ad copy for literal fractions of a penny. Like, marketing output is faster than ever. How is that not agentic marketing?
It's a very common misconception, but generating text is not agentic behavior. Large language models churning out copy is just content creation. It has zero strategic context. Contrast that with actual AI reasoning. John Miller broke this distinction down beautifully in a recent post. He explains that to achieve true one-to-one personalization at scale, a system has to nail 4 distinct dimensions simultaneously.
Okay, what are they?
Offer, channel, timing, and content.
So if I'm understanding this, Gen AI is only solving one of those 4 dimensions, the content.
Exactly that. A generative AI tool can write the most compelling subject line in the world, but it cannot tell you if that specific enterprise account needs a case study right now, or if they need an invite to a technical demo. That's the offer.
Right.
It can't tell you if the buyer prefers to be engaged on LinkedIn rather than email. That's the channel. And it certainly doesn't know if right now is the optimal time to reach out based on their historical product usage.
Because traditional rules-based automation fails there.
Right, because human-built logic branches simply can't weigh thousands of conflicting behavioral signals all at once. But AI reasoning engines can.
That distinction completely reframes the conversation. And Bendupal added a great layer to this by separating the concept of personalization from what he calls a customer brain.
A customer brain, I like that.
Yeah. He says personalization, like dynamic text insertion or Gen AI copy, just makes an experience relevant after a decision has been made. But a customer brain determines the right decision long before the personalization is even applied.
The brain decides what the strategic move is, and the generative AI just executes the how.
Exactly. So what does this actually mean for the practitioner? Kalara Vasavada made a really bold claim about this operational shift. He stated that the era of the marketer login is officially dead.
Wow. That is a massive paradigm shift to swallow.
It is, but think about his logic. He's arguing that B2B marketers need to fundamentally shift their mindset away from software as a tool. You have to stop treating platforms like Adobe or Salesforce as passive dashboards where you just log in, pull a segment list, build a journey step by step, and hit send.
Yep.
Instead, you need to start treating your tech stack as an active digital AI workforce that is operating continuously in the background, making those offer, channel, timing decisions autonomously.
But see, here's where the rubber meets the road. To manage a digital workforce, you need flawless operations. You cannot just unleash AI reasoning agents on messy, unstructured systems and expect good results.
Yeah, definitely not.
And that steers us directly into the reality on the ground for marketing operations and RevOps professionals.
The unsung heroes who actually have to make all of this theory work in practice.
Exactly.
Gerard Hillou offered a brilliant economic breakdown of this exact reality for MOP's teams. He pointed out that generative AI tokens currently cost like fractions of a penny. Because of that, campaign generation is now an abundant, incredibly cheap resource.
Yeah.
But do you know what is incredibly scarce and intensely expensive to maintain?
Clean, resolved, governed customer data.
Yes. So Hillou's advice to B2B teams is ruthlessly practical, he says. Spend your MarTech budget on the bottleneck, not the abundance.
Makes sense.
Do not blow your remaining Q3 budget on fancy generative AI wrappers if your underlying data foundation is a mess. You have to fix the foundation first, because an AI agent sitting on top of broken data is just going to produce highly confident, very expensive nonsense at an incredible scale.
And we see the consequences of ignoring this play out in daily CRM realities all the time.
Yeah.
Gabriel Marguglio issued a really stark warning about architectural discipline.
Yeah.
He basically said, stop creating unnecessary custom objects in HubSpot or Salesforce.
That is so common, though. A new VP of sales comes in, wants to track a specific metric, and suddenly MOPs is building a whole new custom object.
Oh, it happens constantly. And it's toxic for AI.
Yeah.
When you build a labyrinth of custom architecture to solve a short-term reporting need, you destroy the structural integrity of the CRM.
Yeah.
Months later, standard reporting is broken, automated workflows misfire, and literally nobody remembers why the object was built in the first place. Clean, standard, well-organized CRM data serves agentic AI far better than a complex, bespoke architecture. The more custom complexity you introduce, the harder it is for an AI reasoning agent to actually map and understand the customer context.
That makes total sense. And it's not just about how the database is structured, it's about the sequence of the data flowing into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sarah McNamara had a fantastic operational tip for MOPs teams regarding enrichment tools, like Clay. She argues that marketing ops should own those enrichment tools upstream, right at the point of lead capture.
Upstream, rather than leaving it to the sales development team to enrich those leads manually later in the process.
Exactly.
Why is that sequencing so critical, though?
Because of how it impacts the automated models down the line. If a lead fills out a form with garbage, self-reported data like a personal email and a joke job title, and that lead hits your automated scoring model before it gets enriched with real firmographic data, the model misfires.
Right, it just throws it out.
It scores the lead as a 0. And then marketing gets blamed for generating bad pipeline, but the root cause wasn't the lead quality, it was bad data sequencing. If MOPs uses a tool like Clay to enrich that data the exact millisecond it enters the system, the AI scoring models actually have real signals to evaluate before they route the lead.
Yeah, and this reliance on upstream architecture, it raises a really important question about the human element here. As the technology becomes more autonomous and complex, the skill set required to manage it is shifting drastically.
Absolutely. Ashley Langford made a great observation about what hiring managers need to look for in MOPs leaders right now. She says we need to stop obsessing over specific platform certifications.
Oh, totally.
Like, whether a candidate has 5 years of specific Marketo experience versus Salesforce Marketing Cloud experience is becoming entirely irrelevant, because the underlying operational logic of data flow is becoming tool agnostic.
And frankly, as AI takes over the execution layer, button clicking and basic workflow setup become entirely commoditized.
Precisely. Instead, Langford advises hiring for the soft skills that are incredibly hard to teach. Can this person create clarity out of chaos?
That's a big one.
Can they drive cross-departmental alignment between sales, marketing, and IT? Can they manage the human change management required to deploy AI? And most importantly, can they make good strategic decisions with incomplete information?
Yeah.
That is the human layer that an AI agent cannot replicate, and it's what defines a great MOP's leader today.
I love that. Which actually brings us to a final, much larger implication of this entire technological shift. Let's pull back and look at the whole board for a second. If we combine everything we've discussed today, Databricks absorbing the CDP into the Lakehouse, the ecosystem scrambling to own execution, the rise of agentic marketing workflows, and the absolute necessity of flawless data foundations, we are witnessing a massive centralization of power into the data core.
It's like a black hole, honestly. The gravity is pulling every single marketing function inward into the data warehouse.
It is. But Van Dijmendakis raised a deeply thought-provoking counterpoint that every B2B leader really needs to mull over.
What's that?
Well, while tech giants like Databricks and Snowflake are racing to own this central data core, the reality for massive global enterprises is much messier than a neat architectural diagram. Think of an enterprise like IKEA or BMW. They don't just operate in one clean environment.
Right, they're everywhere.
They operate across dozens of global markets. They interact with multiple conflicting regulatory bodies. They run on various siloed regional clouds.
So a single data platform's gravity, no matter how powerful it is, can't possibly reach all of those disparate corners of a global enterprise.
That is the crux of the issue. So the provocative question Dijmendakis leaves us with is this. Who governs the AI agents in the spaces that a single data platform can't reach?
Oh, wow.
Furthermore, a highly regulated European enterprise isn't simply going to hand its entire autonomous marketing operation and all its customer data over to a single US-based data vendor. The risk profile is just too high.
Especially not with the current regulatory environment. I mean, you have GDPR enforcement getting stricter and the massive compliance requirements of the upcoming EU AI Act. You can't just let an agent run wild across borders.
You can't. So Diamond Dacus suggests that the future architecture won't just end with the data lake. It might require a completely neutral, sovereign governing layer.
A governing layer.
Yeah, something that sits entirely above the stack, above Databricks, above Salesforce, above your composable CDPs and your engagement tools. A sovereign layer owned by no single infrastructure vendor, whose sole purpose is to govern the active agents, ensure cross-border compliance, and manage business context across the entire heterogeneous mess of the global enterprise.
That is wild to think about. We started this deep dive by talking about how the data warehouse is actively absorbing the marketing stack. But if Diamond Dacus is right, we might end up needing a literal Supreme Court of AI governance sitting above all of it just to keep the whole machine legal and functional.
Exactly.
That is a phenomenal thought to leave on as we look toward the future of B2B architecture.
Absolutely.
If you enjoyed this episode, new episodes drop every 2 weeks. Also check out our other editions on account-based marketing, field marketing, channel marketing, AI and B2B marketing, go-to-market, and social selling.